In a time and place when you can die alone anywhere.
Two ladies in their mid to late 27s are trying not to.
And they're calling it Relationshit Part 3.
When to walk away and when to run away screaming.
The ladies talk about red flags, settling, and becoming invisible as they age.
I didn't know how good I had it in my 20s.
This is the Workationic Podcast.
All right, so we are back for Relationshit Part Trace.
Yes.
It's a stunning trilogy.
It is a real trilogy, isn't it?
It is.
You know, I wonder, is it like that Star Wars movie where the second one is better than the first?
I'm not sure. And we're in the third now, so it's hard to know where this one is in the au revoir. But
you know, Scream 3 was a real piece of shit.
Once I don't recall the particulars, but that probably tells me a lot right there.
Scream 2 is pretty solid.
Rocky 4. So.
Is that a good one?
It's the best one. So I mean, maybe we should. I'm not ready to do the 4-peat though. That's a lot.
No, I think that we're ready to move on from Relationshit, and actually, that's what this episode is about.
Yes.
So this is, as Kelly said, Relationshit Part 3: When to Walk Away and When to Run Away Screaming.
Yes, because so the last two episodes we really dedicated more to the dating process, which is admittedly just so metal.
Some harrowing shit, isn't it?
It's horrifying, but honestly, the only thing that's more brutal than dating is settling for the wrong relationship.
Yeah, but okay, so let's assume that we're all people of a certain age.
And if you're not homegirl, know that it's coming down the tracks at you faster than you can know.
Watch Sex and the City. Take notes.
Right.
It's the prophecy.
It is.
It really is. I in my 20s, I did not believe that to be the case. Rounded the corner into my mid to late 27s and skirt coming at you fast.
Right? All of your young person, your young pretty lady privilege is just gone. You're like, I was using that?
Yeah. Can I have that back, please? And who's taking it from me? I don't know. It's just slowly disappearing. And then there's a real issue with ladies disappearing. It gets talked about a lot in the media.
It happens slowly, and it's very jarring. Because it happens slowly, but kind of all at once also. Like what it...
All of a sudden, you're invisible. All of a sudden, people don't hold doors for you like they used to. All of a sudden, you're not getting looks from people. Like, you're not being checked out. You're not being looked at all.
No, and there's something about that in some ways I find comforting. I don't know. I've never really liked being checked out in that way. But man, when it goes away all of a sudden and you realize what that was and that you kind of needed it.
And what that means for your relationship prospects.
Exactly.
Right? And so as you age, I don't want to say that the situation becomes more desperate, but...
We don't want to say that, no.
I'm not going to say that.
Nobody likes saying that.
Getting a little thirstier.
Yeah.
As I age. You know, my skin isn't looking quite as hydrated as it used to. There's only so much Botox.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's tough. I know that men go through something kind of similar.
But like 20 years later.
Right. But like for women, it comes on so early and it becomes such a factor in your relationships. And it gets to this point where it's like, well, what am I going to be willing to put up with just because I'm in this position where I'm suddenly becoming more aware of my age and I'm suddenly, and I do want to find a partner. So what am I going to be willing to put up with? And too many times we see people settle because as hard as it can be to be dating and to be trying to find that person, when you see what it does to somebody's life when they really commit to a relationship that is not serving them, that's a much sadder story.
At the same time, the question is, so like when to settle in do you? Because at some point you're going to ideally find somebody that you think you can hit that button with, right?
Right.
And you're going to tap out and that's your relationship and this is, you guys are in it for the long haul or whatever, right? And if the cost of that mistake, the cost of making a mistake at that point can be years of your life.
Yeah, and we wanted to talk about that specifically just because it's a tough line to walk, because the truth is that no relationship is going to be perfect, because like there are no perfect people. You're not perfect, and the people that you date are never going to be perfect. And there's always going to be places in a relationship where you kind of rub up against each other the wrong way, and you have to negotiate that. And nobody's going to be this ideal that you have in your head. And I actually see it pretty often with men and women, you know, once you get into your 30s and beyond, where, you know, you've got this life and this career and these friends, and you've got some real ideas of like who you are and what you're looking for and what you want and what you don't want. And sometimes that list gets so long that you're kind of just like defining yourself out of the race just because that person doesn't exist at all.
Right.
And so when we say settling, we don't really mean like, we don't mean it in such a dark way, but at some point you are going to have to look at someone and be like, well, this isn't perfect, but it is good enough. It's enough of what I want.
Right. Like, at what point is good enough good enough? I don't know. I torture myself with that question.
Right.
It's a real, you know, because you don't want to make the wrong decision. And it makes me kind of skittish and commitment phobic at times.
Right. And that's fun. That's a fun thing for other people to see it in you. Like, I know that guys really like it when they see that in me.
It really brings all the, you know, that milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
Yeah, it's like real attractive when they realize you've always got like one eye towards the door.
Just looking for an excuse.
Yeah, who doesn't want that in a partner? So good. That's a good reason to talk about it, though, is because, I mean, we don't have all the answers, but we thought we'd talk it out a little and, you know, try to figure out what are the most important things and the things that you should be looking for, and specifically, like, what are the things that you can live with versus what are the things that you absolutely should not live with.
Right. So let's talk about some of the signs it's time to leave.
Yes.
Just draw a door on the wall, Wile E. Coyote style, and then walk through it.
Just some sort of an empowered ladies country song.
Yes.
About leaving that no good man.
Uh-huh.
Or woman, whatever your case may be.
You know, I wouldn't recommend that you follow through on the keying the tires.
No.
Or keying the car, slashing the tires. What did Carrie Underwood want us all to do?
She something her 45 and your pretty little souped up four-wheel drive. Sorry, I tapped into my true white lady nature and remembered the words.
She also
all white girls were born knowing the words to that song, even though it hadn't been written yet.
It's very true. She carved her name into his leather seats.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. So I mean,
so not that. You don't need to do all that, girl.
No,
that's a lot.
You can be classy about it, and I don't even recommend that you rage post a bunch of passive aggressive memes on Facebook.
No, you don't need to do that, and you don't need to hit him with a goodbye, Earl. None of that.
No, nobody wants to.
I don't know why I'm on these country songs all of a sudden.
You really are. Well, it's because it's a sad subject, and what's sadder than country?
Right.
Have you seen the parking lot after a Toby Keith concert?
Right.
Have you seen the pregame at a Toby Keith concert? Like, what's sadder than that? Just like yeehaw,
oh man,
down home country. Just all the mouth breathers from the flyover states come together.
Sorry if you like country, but you know it's true. Anyways.
I don't think he's allowed back in Pittsburgh anymore because the fans trash.
Was it Toby Keith? I thought it was Keith Urban. It's one of those Keiths.
No, it was not Keith Urban.
I think it was Keith Urban.
Not Nicole Kidman's husband.
Well,
she would never allow such trash.
Maybe it's one of the other ones. Listen, it's one of those.
Some country singer.
He comes to Pittsburgh every year, and the people literally just destroy the entire city.
They get into fights in the parking lot, too, as you might imagine.
It's wild.
I grew up in a redneck kind of community, and fights at, like, literally there was a bar called the OK Corral, and there would be fights at the OK Corral. I shit you not.
Oh, I love a good country ass bar, though, like truly in the country, not like Western themed, like we're not here to square dance, but like just a true. Oh, there was this one my friends used to go to that was called the Ramble Inn, and we would always say like ramble in, stumble out. That was a good one. Good times.
Okay, so let's get back on track, because I think that the first issue here is you don't have a shared vision of the future. And that can translate into all kinds of different ways.
Right. And this is some of the stuff we've talked about already. Like, for instance, the kids versus no kids thing. Maybe you guys didn't think it was such a big deal at the beginning of the relationship, or maybe one of you decided to change your mind. Surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you can't agree on that, it's not going to work, because one of you is always going to end up feeling resentful, whether you decide to have them or not have them. If you guys weren't on the same page about that, that's a lifelong decision. Even the decision to not have kids is a lifelong decision that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. And so, like, if you guys aren't on the same page about the kids thing, you got to let it go.
Oh, no. And I mean, because by all means, nothing's going to make your relationship better, like bringing an entire brand new human being into the world when, like, one of you is going to resent it forever.
Right. And, you know, making a person is never a great way to see if your relationship's going to work out. Because first of all, I don't know why anyone ever thinks that, like, you know what would be great is if we could have less money and a lot less sleep for like a long time. And I think that that's really going to improve this relationship.
Yeah, I think that that's got such a good shot at success that I'm going to go ahead and have this relationship saving baby.
Right.
Because otherwise the relationship it's not going to be saved.
Right, like, don't make a person over that. That's not fair. They're going to have all the crap to deal with that the rest of us do. They're going to have anxiety.
They're going to need betterhelp.com/workationing.
Right.
Which we love so much. We have an affiliate relationship with, you know.
Exactly.
If this is really stressing you out, head on over to betterhelp.com/workationing and you can get 7 days of internet therapy for free.
Right.
Because you might need to talk to somebody about
Right, because none of us asked to be born.
No.
Just like some kid who's going to fix your relationship did not ask to be born, and now they've got to grapple with the meaning of life. Why? Because you were trying to fix some relationship that then you decided to pull the escape hatch on 18 months later. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Like, if your relationship is not solid, a child is not going to fix this. It's crazy to me that we even have to say that, and yet
I'm told it happens.
My Facebook timeline seems to indicate that it happens quite often.
Oh, God. Here's another thing. Where do you want to live? Is here fine? What if here is not fine for one of you?
Right. Like, Kari and I have talked about this in the past. We both have had experiences where we had really great relationships with men that we really like, everything was good, except the problem is that, like, that dude had already bought his house and committed to a town and decided that that's where he was going to live and die. And that, like, neither of us were super down with that idea.
No. And at some point, I like to say, I don't like to say it, but for me, it felt like elaborately decorating a coffin. But, like,
yeah,
this isn't my coffin, though.
Right. And I'm sure that I know that in my case, like, to them, it doesn't feel that way. But, like, to us, it does. Like, it feels like decorating a coffin. And, like, that's why I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do that. It's not that I can't commit to somebody, but what I know that I can commit to someone long term, but what I can't commit to is, like, I'm going to stay here in this town and live and die here. Like, I don't have that setting. That to me sounds terrifying.
No, and some people really like it. Some people love having a home that they, you know, obviously my ex did. And for a lot of people that is really comforting, and they have things arranged just the way that they like them, and that is a totally legitimate way to live. It just freaks me out. As I've mentioned, I might have some commitment issues.
We might have some small commitment issues. Because the same with the guy I dated. It was just like, he loves that city so much, and he works for the city, and he does amazing things for the city, and he's like a well-respected member of that community, and he gets, like, so much fulfillment and happiness out of that. And honestly, he's probably fulfilled and happy in a way that I may never really figure out how to be. But I can't do that particular thing.
I tried it.
I'm not
I tried
into
real
it.
hard.
It makes me squirrely and insane. And, like, it's not a good path. So you got to be with somebody that, like, you're compatible with in that way.
What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? 2, how much recreational drug use is okay? Is any? That can be a real deal breaker for a lot of people. It's, you know,
it is.
It's made me walk away from partners in the past.
Right.
Or potential partners.
Right. Because I think everyone has a different definition of what that looks like, or 100% does not look like.
Listen, I think a lot of people can agree on a baseline that Coke on a Tuesday is probably a red flag.
Right. You know, and there's, like, the big guys you want to stay away from, you know? Like,
yeah.
Like meth and heroin. That's no. You know?
Those prescription pills.
Yeah, you want to stay away from those.
You not a good idea. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the prescription. Some of them, but like the opiates.
Those are the bad jelly beans.
We don't like those.
You don't want those.
That's not even a sometimes food. Like if you have had surgery and very recently.
Right. Well, for some people, smoking weed, I think for a lot of people, smoking weed is just like no big deal. But for some people, smoking weed is just like hard no.
Right.
And so, that kind of goes the spectrum. Also, your lifestyle is so many things that, if one of you is all about living below your means and saving for the future and retiring early, and then the other one really kind of just likes to go out to dinner and go on trips. I know which category I fall into, but somebody who was like really aggressively saving for their future, I think would have a hard time with like my particular lifestyle.
Also, again, where you want to live is a big one, I think. But what do you do on the weekends? Does one of you really like to camp?
Oh, please do not ask me to go camping.
See, I don't mind. Like, listen, I hate seeing dudes' feet on Tinder, but I am so down to go camping. I'll sleep in a tent. I'll sleep on the ground. I don't even need an air mattress. Actually, I kind of like judge a guy if he brings along an air mattress. Oh, no, you better
bring that air mattress, son.
No, I'm like, you pussy. Come on.
You're going to sleep on the hard-ass ground?
Yeah, girl, it is camping.
Listen, we're incompatible, you and I.
I mean, on the other hand, it is really nice to have. Like I judge, like I don't sleep on the ground when an air mattress is available.
Well, it should be available. Like kind of a monster would not sleep on an air mattress. My goodness.
How active are you though?
Yeah, no, that's another thing, and that becomes increasingly an issue the older you get, because some people stay active, not just physically working out and that sort of thing, but like do you still go to concerts? Do you still travel to somewhere that's not an all-inclusive resort? Like, all of these things are things that you've got to consider. Does somebody want to live their life in the same way that you do? Because some people, they hit an age and they're just done, man. They watch TV as their hobby,
Right.
And if that's you, that's cool, but you got to find another couch potato.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have problems.
And you guys can really get into Lost together. That's a long series. It's going to take you a long time to get through.
Right?
There's nothing worse than playing the What Do You Want to Watch game.
No. Oh, God.
You pick a series and you just plow through it. And then, a couple seasons before you're up, you start thinking about what else you might want to watch.
Yeah, you got to think about it ahead of time, because I feel like most of a relationship is just asking each other what you want to eat and asking each other what you're going to watch.
I don't know. What do you want?
That's why I need
to make a decision.
Right.
Please?
But that's why I need an active partner, because as soon as I get into that place where like sitting on the couch again, trying to fight over what we're going to watch again, I'm just like, okay, I'm done with this relationship.
I bet you so much time gets wasted on people just like sitting around playing the what do you want to do, watch, eat game.
Right? As you just like quietly resent the other person.
Oh, because how long does it take some people to flip through Netflix and like the rage? And can you just fucking pick something already? It gets worse.
Right.
The longer it goes. One time, I mean, I tapped out in an hour and 15 minutes.
I've had to go on longer than that. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
No, at an hour and 15 minutes, I was just like, anything is fine. Do you understand that we could have watched something?
Right.
Anything.
No, it's the worst.
We could have hated it. That's okay. We could have tapped out, found something else. We could have done that 4 times.
Right. Or you could have left the house. You know what I mean? And maybe engaged with each other. Like if it's that hard to find a television show, like maybe you don't actually want to be watching television right now.
That's a fair point. Also self-improvement as a lifestyle.
Yeah,
right?
That's a huge one. That's a huge one for me and for you. Like we're always working on ourselves. And I really want to surround myself with friends and partners or whatever who are working on themselves, because it helps keep me honest.
Right.
And like we said, some people tap out early on that. So many people, it's like they get a job and they get this house and maybe they have a kid or two, and then they're just done. And it's like, I'm going to go to the same place for dinner every Thursday, and I'm going to watch football every Sunday. And then that's really it. Just forever.
I've got my favorite TV snacks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have them every night.
Right.
Rotate through some maybe. And then just like power watch some TV before I crash out 4 hours later.
Right. And I mean, listen, once again, that's fine. Like if you're about living a simpler lifestyle, that's totally legit, but you need to find somebody else who's on that same page. But you and I are people, like we're the type that are like never going to retire.
Right.
Like we just don't really have that setting. So
I like to say that I'm going to one day. But
all I do is act like I'm going to, but I'm not.
No. I'd get bored.
Too squirrely.
So are you moving toward the same goals too? Speaking of like Are you going to retire? What does that look like? What do you want your long-term life to look like? Because it's important that those goals are aligned, because otherwise you're not going to arrive at the same destination and you're going to drift apart.
Right. And sometimes like you really do just grow apart. Like when you meet each other, you might have a certain idea of what that relationship is going to look like. But over time, you both change and evolve, or in the case, maybe only one of you does.
Right.
And suddenly you find yourself in very different places. And that can be tough.
I would say that another deal breaker in a relationship can be, I mean, it's worth a consideration, right? Is maybe you're not sexually compatible.
I mean, I think that's a huge one. There's such a spectrum of desire and also what people expect out of a sexual relationship that you've got to find somebody who's more or less on your same page. For instance, if one of you really wants to be monogamous and the other one is like not really that into monogamy, that's probably not going to work for you just over time, especially if somebody has really voiced that non-monogamy is not either 100% not okay with them or that that's the thing that they want. Like if you guys aren't on the same page, over time, that's going to cause issues.
Right.
Also, vastly differing levels of desire. I would actually say that I think it's probably pretty common that one person in the relationship is like slightly more interested in sex than the other.
Right.
Just because there's so many different degrees of it. But if you guys just can't even meet in the middle, you know, if one of you is once a monther and the other one is an everydayer, you're going to have resentment on both sides.
Right. Oh, this is a fun one. F is for fetishes and shit gets weird, or can be.
Yeah, no.
Out here,
yeah,
dating at a certain age.
No, if one person in the relationship has a special thing that they really need to happen and the other person is just like, it's a nah for me, dog, then you're going to have issues. And because then it's going to be a conversation of either basically you either need to give that person a hall pass to go explore that thing on their own, or you need to let them go. Because what you can't do is box somebody in like that and expect them for that relationship to flourish and for them to be happy and fulfilled. I just think that for people who have that kind of a need, you need to like respect it or let them go.
I agree.
It's not an easy one. That sucks.
No, that's not something that you're going to like be able to. Well, why'd you guys break up? It seemed like it was so good.
You're going to need to come up with another reason.
Could not stop with my feet.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I've got a thing about feet.
Yeah.
You know?
Tale as old as time. That one.
It's not going to work out.
Yeah, no.
It creeps me out.
Sometimes the chemistry just isn't there, and that can be tough. I will say for some people, that's not a huge issue. I think that some people can have a relationship that doesn't have a ton of sex, or even all the way down the spectrum to having a sexless relationship. And some people, like if you don't have a huge sex drive or that's not a big priority for you, or I mean, hell, there's like asexual people out there who just aren't into it at all. That's totally fine, but like you need to find somebody who's on that same level with you.
Right.
Because sometimes it's just not there. And when it's not there, if you're somebody for whom sexuality is important, I know that I've been in that situation in a relationship before. And it's just like, for me, having a relationship where there's not a lot of sex going on is like emotionally really difficult for me and like fucks me up in a way.
Right.
You know? And so I, in that situation, really wanted to make it work because everything else about that relationship, well, maybe not everything, but most of the other things about that relationship were really good. But it's just like, for me, that's not a tenable situation.
Fair enough. And I think for a lot of people, that's like a legit reason why relationships don't work out.
Yeah.
You know?
It happens a lot, unfortunately, because that's just a hard thing. It's hard to be compatible on all these different levels. And then you're supposed to be sexually compatible too.
Well, yeah. And then it can change too. Because what happens if you're not, or like you lost it, you're no longer sexually attracted to your partner.
Yeah.
Which happens. I mean, you see it. You see it on, you know, we talk about scrolling. The things you see when you scroll through your Facebook feed. And listen, like one time I got pretty fat.
These things happen, girl. I got fat for 10 years.
I went through and I hid all of those photos. One of them popped back up into my memories. I showed it to you and I was like, look at this.
And I was like, ah.
You're like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, that's me.
Right? And these things happen.
That's me in my fat face, you know? So what happens when, and thank God, you know, lost that weight. Not without a struggle and a personal trainer.
Right.
Some hard work.
And I think sometimes it's not even like, sometimes one or both people let themselves go which, I mean, that sucks because everybody wants to be like, oh, they should love you no matter what. I don't know how realistic that is.
No, and at what point do you draw the line? And when you say, like, I'm not sexually... This has happened to me, and it was over 5 pounds. Mm-hmm. It was over 5 pounds. And it was like, I'm not sexually attracted to you anymore, or as sexually attracted to you anymore. And so, like, you really need to lose the weight. And then what happens if you don't lose the weight? What happens if you have a stressful week and you trip into some brie mouth first, and then you're, up 5 pounds when you meant to be down 5, but oh my God, the stress of it all, right? And so, like, at what point is that a legitimate tap out factor? I
don't think 5 pounds is the point. I think you should find a partner who will stick with you through,
thick and thin, as they say.
Right. But like a 5 to 10 pound fluctuation, I would hope would not be a relationship ender. However, when you get into an exclusive romantic and sexual relationship with someone, you're kind of signing up to be their slam piece. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, they chose you for a reason. And if you stop being the person that this person chose to be in a relationship with, whether that's in like personality changes or in, physical changes or any of that, like if you really let that go, in a way, you're kind of just like, you're being kind of shitty, actually, because like, are you holding this other person hostage? Like, are you? Because you're not meeting. I don't know. I just feel like there's certain agreements in a relationship that are unspoken.
Well, and I think that there are legit reasons, and why some people, like a lot of people get on steroids, for example, and then it's just like and it can be like a temporary thing, but it's a long-term temporary thing.
Well, and there's a lot of things that can happen too. Like, I mean, all kinds of things can happen. There's aging and there's illness. And at a certain point, people need to grow the fuck up and stick in a relationship and realize that not all of us are entitled to, fuck a supermodel every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very true.
And so, like, in a way, you've got to just grow the fuck up. But at the same time, if you are really letting yourself go, you need to recognize that is going to affect your partner. And if your partner has really let themselves go, I don't think that you have to beat yourself up and like hate yourself for being like, like, I don't know if I'm really into this anymore.
No, and I think that it's fair to communicate that. I think it's just important to do that in a way that
you need to be as positive as possible and as proactive and as loving as possible, but
supportive. Would you like to go to the gym with me? Would you like to come visit my Botox guy?
Right. But I think you're allowed to make those concerns known in a loving and supportive and constructive way, which can be difficult. But, if you are in a long-term relationship with someone, you should have some kind of communication skills.
Right. And I guess that's another one too. Communication issues are a huge downfall in a lot of relationships.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I've been in relationships with people that I just couldn't talk to. And I mean, I could easily just go ahead and blame them and act like it was all their fault. But, obviously I was a part of that as well. But sometimes you just have really different communication styles, or sometimes
you think that you're communicating in a way that the person can understand, but they don't. And sometimes you are just not giving your partner, what they need, or vice versa. But then how often do you sit that person down on the couch, or when's the last time you got sat down on a couch and like, hey, let's talk about how you're not like giving me what I need right now? Like, how often are conversations explicitly had like that? And versus how often does it play out with a bunch of like passive aggressive behavior that has nothing, it's germane to nothing, right? Or it's not germane to the actual problem.
Yeah. I mean, you need to at least be able to talk to each other, and you need to be able to understand on some level where the other person is coming from and what their fundamental values and priorities are.
Right.
Because even if they're different than yours, you should be able to at least understand it. And maybe you'll have bad moments and you get angry, and in the heat of the moment you can't see it. But ideally, if you're going to make it work with somebody long term, you need to have some kind of base level of understanding and respect that allows you to eventually circle back and communicate effectively about the things you fight about.
I think that now that we're talking about communication issues, I feel like trust and communication go hand in hand.
Yeah, because trust is a big part of it. Because to have really tough conversations with somebody, like to have the kind of relationship with somebody where one or the other of you can sit the other one down and be like, listen, love you big time, but you got to put the brie down and go to the gym. Those are tough conversations.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of trust. And so the trust has to be there.
There's also trust in the, I guess, cheating sense, right? Like, are you the type of person who is going through your partner's phone? That's a red flag. Why are you doing that? What kind of spidey sense is being tickled? But like, also, if you just as a matter of habit feel it necessary to go through your partner's phone with every single partner you have, I think that those trust issues are on you, probably.
Yeah, you need to have some self-awareness. If every single relationship that you've had, you don't trust that person, either you're legitimate shit at choosing partners, which might be an issue.
Right.
Or you have major trust issues, or it's a little column A and column B. And in either case, BetterHelp.com/workationing.
That's BetterHelp.com/workationing.
Because you got some stuff to work through, and there's no time like the present.
No, you can type to your internet therapist today.
Yeah, and you probably should, because that's a big one. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with somebody who feels like the jail keep.
Right.
You're going to run everybody off if you can't trust them.
Right. And which route did you take home? Where did you stop? I didn't see the grocery bag, though. Also, I've got Find My iPhone set up.
Right.
I've been tracking you.
I know so many people who do that.
That is so fucked.
No, it's rough. Like, if you don't trust that person, you got to let it go. Like, either you've got to work on your trust issues and recognize that it's on your end, or you've got to, to be honest, though, a lot of times, if in general you are a trusting person and you don't distrust your relationships until somebody gives you a reason to, and you find yourself really not trusting somebody for whatever reason, with or without evidence, honestly, chances are you're probably right. Like, I feel like people ignore that way too much. And at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't even matter if they're actually doing the thing that you think that they're doing. If your level of respect for them is so low, and your perceived level of their respect for you is so low, that you're at this point that like you don't even know that you can trust them to tell you the truth or to be faithful, it's probably time to just pack it up, pack it in.
Right.
Try something new.
Now, speaking from experience, and I don't know if this is the case with all internet therapists, but when I went through my recent breakup, the therapist wouldn't tell me whether or not I should, I presented a case.
Yeah.
Right?
The text messages, all the receipts.
I did. I presented a case and was just like, so, it seems like...
And I was like, he's guilty. For real, though.
And I was like, so what do you think I should do? And she was like, that's not for me to say. Which I was just like, nah, though, really. Can you just can you send me some sort of green light? Can you tell me that this is probably a good move? No, you're going to leave that decision on me, huh? Oh.
No, the therapist will almost never tell you. I actually did have a relationship therapist once tell me to leave. And I was like, that was all I needed to hear. Because I was like, well, I know that you guys never say this. So,
so it must be really bad.
Yeah, it was like a real breach of your professional behavior that you decided to tell me that. So I'm going to go ahead and pack my things. If your relationship therapist tells you to leave, it's time.
Oh, yeah. You take that advice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when to run away screaming.
Right. No, it was like we would always go. And then it was a one time that I don't remember why he wasn't there, but I went by myself for some reason. And there was a reason. And I went by myself, and her whole thing, I could tell this lady was just like, you guys come in here every damn week. And I just don't know why anymore. She didn't say it that way, but that was the vibe. And I was just like, sister, I hear you. I think it's time. Let me put us all out of our misery.
Right? Yeah. Sorry, you're losing a client, but maybe he'll come to you with his next.
No, she was like, "Go be free, my sister." I was like, "I think it's time yet."
Yeah. I did get confirmation afterward that was, it sounded like the best decision, and I was like, "Well, thanks." One time, I'm not going to say what relationship it was, but it was a very significant relationship. And I told my grandma that we had broken up, and she was like, yeah, well, I didn't really ever see you guys as being together like long term. And I was like, well, why did you not say something at the wedding then? I guess I just like called that one out. But
like there are people that I dated that were very, very nice people that my family as individuals actually liked. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then afterwards they were like, we didn't really understand what either of you were doing in that relationship.
But we were just going to go ahead and let you do that. And so, like, know that probably friends and family aren't going to be like, yeah, it's time for you to leave that asshole, unless it's actually time for you to probably leave that asshole, No,
I've got like 4 friends that I think should get divorced with a quickness. But, I just keep that to myself until the day that they come to me. Fingers crossed, tell me that's happening. But, like, you can't tell when somebody else is in a relationship and they're serious and they're committed to it, unless there's some real, like, abuse or danger going on, you are probably best to just
you keep your mouth shut, because it's none of your goddamn business, right? And then like trust that like that's going to ruin a friendship. So if you
because what's going to happen is they're going to go tell them, and now suddenly you're the friend
2 against 1.
No,
you lose.
No, and don't do it. It's not worth it. So you just keep that to yourself. But it is always kind of annoying when you get out of a relationship and everyone's like, yeah, I couldn't wait for you to get done with that. Took a little longer than I thought. What were you waiting for? And it's just like, I don't know, for you to say something, but okay.
I know. I really had to take a lot of self-ownership of how long it has taken me to extricate myself out of relationships, because sometimes, let's be real, that's a 6-month play.
My breakups are all at least 6 months. I'm not good at the getting out. Although I will say
I'm real good at the getting out. It's just like sometimes it takes me a while to get out the door.
No, I'm like a truck trying to get out of the mud. It's like, like just like rocking back and forth, and I'm like, I'm about to do it. I almost did it that time.
I've got this internet therapist who's putting these boards under my tires.
Right? I'm like, I almost did it. I'm gonna do it. I'm almost there.
Don't sit in front of me.
Spraying mud everywhere.
Oh my god. So we have this saying that I picked up somewhere around the farm, and it's, how long are you going to keep fucking this chicken? Mm-hmm. And I use this phrase a lot. I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast before, though.
No, but we say this in work related contexts a lot.
Yeah. How long are we going to keep fucking this chicken? And what I mean by that is, or what is meant by that is, so when you're fucking a chicken, you're not proud of it. The people watching it, not proud of you.
No.
Doing it.
Nobody's glad.
Like everyone's just kind of like,
there's some weird fringe corner of the internet that's into it, but for the most part.
No. Everyone else is just like, is he fucking a chicken? He's just still fucking that chicken, huh? And like nobody's having a good time.
No.
Chicken's not having a good time. Like, but there you are humping away.
Right, and it's just embarrassing. Everyone feels bad. It needs to be done. It's getting no one anywhere.
You got to end that. You got to stop fucking that chicken.
No, and sometimes you just do.
You do. Like, how long are you going to keep fucking that chicken?
It usually takes me about 6 months. To be real. Yeah, it's not good. I need to be better at breaking up, because like it starts 6 months earlier when I start to see that this is done. But I have to, like, I don't know why I insist on staying in there till just all the love is really dead. Like, till we've really found all of the bad, nasty things that we could have said to each other, and we just, like, really and truly hate. Like, why, though? Because you know when it's done.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to jump out too soon. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, there's some water in this here boat. And, like, I can see that it might be going down. At the rate that the water is accruing. But like, I can get a bucket maybe.
No, I guess in hindsight, it's always easy to see the point of no return. But in the moment, you don't always know that the point of no return is the point of no return.
No, and it's a pain in the ass to break up with somebody. It requires like a lot of emotional bullshit, depending on the length of the relationship and how involved it was. Maybe somebody's got to move out. Fuck, maybe there's paperwork involved and you've got to figure out what it's like to go through a divorce. It was easier than I thought, actually.
Right?
It was easier than I thought.
It's still an ordeal, though. And you also have to go through the whole, like, now I've got to tell everybody that this didn't work out. Remember how I told you guys that this was great, love of my life?
Now I've got
to put it on Facebook.
Go open a personal bank account because the joint won. not,
Right?
not going to be so joint anymore. God damn it, I got to shut down my joint Facebook page.
Right? Like, do I have to get my own Netflix account? Fuck. I can't deal with this right now. Let me wait 6 months.
I know. Can we still share the Spotify account,
I have a Spotify account that my Spotify account, no one can really ever see your username on there. It's just not something that comes up. But my login for my Spotify account is like Kelly Chase and then the last name of a dude that I was engaged to. Because when I set it up, I was like, well, that'll be my last name soon.
Oh.
But it's just such a pain to shut down that account. and to start a new one. I've got playlists on there. So it's just like forever now.
That is miserable.
I know, and I'm like, why did I do this to myself? But I did it like 6 years ago, and I made a lot of playlists since then, though.
Yeah, you could share them with another account. I mean, like how much does it sting every time you pop open your Spotify and you're like, ghost of a life I walked away from.
Every time.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is that sting?
It's pretty bad. Like it's an 8.5.
Girl, I don't know why you're still torturing yourself. Do you need BetterHelp.com/?
You've
got an internet therapist already.
I'm just like,
sister. Just go ahead, create a new Spotify account, and then share your playlist with the new one, and then add those playlists to your queue, and then just don't ever open the other Spotify again.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to work on that.
Like 8.5 every day. You Spotify every goddamn day.
Well, I don't log in every day. It remembers me, and then like every once in a while I have to log in. So that's really only a once every few months thing, which I think is why it stays at an 8.5. Otherwise I'd be desensitized to it by now.
Right.
But no, that's a fun little Easter egg of pain that I leave out there for myself to find occasionally.
Yeah. I had a fun one pop up on my Facebook memories because Facebook
memories are a son of a cunt, and I want them to go away forever.
You should really be able to say like, I broke up with this person to Facebook. It doesn't need to be like, but then those memories don't pop up.
No, and I've been on Facebook since like 2005. So on any given day, there can be like 4 different daggers in there. You know what I mean?
And like, sure, you can block the person, but like, do you really want to do that? That's an aggressive move in this digital day and age.
When I'm feeling emotionally strong, I am going to want to go over there and
wish them a happy birthday.
I was going to say stalk them a little. Like, I want to keep, I don't want to close the door to that.
Okay. BetterHelp.com/vacationing, and you can get 7 days free therapy. Kelly, I think you need to BetterHelp more. Just
listen, I'll talk to my therapist about this. I hadn't thought about the fact with that Spotify thing that I like am torturing myself.
Yeah, girl, let it go. That was nowhere near on tune, right? But like, you let it go like Elsa is what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah,
just let it go. There's probably a country song about that too.
Oh, I am sure.
The Dixie Chicks probably have something for you on that.
I'm gonna let him fly. That's a Dixie Chicks song.
Okay, yeah.
I was just listening to it earlier.
Right out of your Spotify account. He can fly off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Know? Speaking of, they can fuck on off into the sunset, I think that there are some red flags in a dating situation that we should probably address because, like, there are, I have been in a relationship where, the guy was emotionally abusive, I would say. Yeah. I didn't think that I was that kind of person to, like, take that shit, right? But, like, I never wanted to create an argument in public, especially, like, in groups of friends and stuff. But it was, like...
Well, and I think that's what people have to look out for, too, is that you don't have to be a certain type of person for that to happen to you. Like, abuse can be a really insidious thing, and the person who's abusing you can be otherwise pretty great. And, you can be a strong, independent person, but, I mean, the nature of how those dynamics work are that, like, you can totally find yourself in the middle of an abusive situation without seeing it coming. And I think sometimes there can even be, like, a lot of shame associated with that. And then it's hard to admit that that's what's going on because you're like, well, surely that can't be what's going on because I'm not that kind of person. But
right.
Like, anybody can be that kind of person in the right situation.
Yeah, and there's differing levels of abuse. So like if in arguments they call you names, that is abusive shit, right? But like Is that I'm going to walk away forever kind of thing because somebody said something that was that shitty in a fight? I don't know. But like, if he ever hits you, you got to run.
I mean, I would say if somebody is saying shitty things to me in a fight, like there's a difference between saying something that I don't like or like getting kind of shitty. But if somebody consistently in a fight is going to like personal attacks or, you know, just like calling you a bitch or swearing at you in really unnecessary ways, like to me, that's an out. I would be done because there are different levels of abuse, but also abuse is abuse and you don't deserve any of it for one. And also like, those things can escalate over time. They don't always, but they do often. And something that you really got to watch out for, another thing that's completely 100% unacceptable for me is if you're the kind of person who you get angry and you like throw things or you like punch something or that kind of stuff, because what someone's telling you, man or woman, because women do this shit too, and I don't think it's talked about enough.
Right.
Because a woman can just go ahead and hit her man and people are just like, people don't address it the same way.
Right.
But if a man or a woman that you're in a relationship with throws things or punches things or breaks things, like the thing that they're trying to communicate to you is that they would hit you or that they're trying not to.
Right.
Or that they wish that they could.
Right. And they're doing that instead. They're breaking that glass or dish or whatever instead.
Right. It's like a physically intimidating move and it's meant to be. And that is a hard no.
Right. Because the next time that dish might be coming at your head.
Right. That's if the situation was really extreme, I might accept that once, depending on the severity of what we're talking about. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to put up with any of that other shit. Like, that's not okay.
I think that there are lines. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're a bitch versus you're being a bitch.
Right. But if every single time you have a fight, it's you're being a bitch.
No, I totally agree with you on that.
You know? Yeah.
No, I mean, like, people say shitty things when they get mad, you know?
They do, and everyone does, and everyone's guilty of that. And everyone, I'm sure, I know I like to lay awake in the night and think about the shitty things that I said to people in a fight that I wish I could take back, you know? And that's awful, but, I mean, you should at least have enough self-awareness that you realize that that was a really shitty thing that you said. Right. And that you did damage and now you can't ever take that back. And so you're going to try to do better next time. And there's certain people who just feel really entitled to get super shitty because they're mad. And like being mad is a justification for all kinds of things that are abusive, from just like yelling to throwing things to calling you names to, you know, and when you get to that situation like that's not going to work.
No. And if you're with the kind of person who's going to like throw things or whatnot, like that behavior is very unlikely to change. Do you know what I mean? And if they come at you with like a bunch of I'm sorry's, that'll never happen again. And then it happens again. That's what you call a pattern.
Right.
You got to keep your eye out for those.
No, if they come at you with a bunch of I'm sorry's, I think that there are situations where you can accept that, but it needs to be like, I am sorry. And I'm going to anger management, or, you know, and I'm going to therapy or whatever, you know, and you're probably going to need a little something more than just betterhelp.com/vacationing.
Probably.
You know what I mean? Yeah. For that kind of stuff, you're going to need to call in the big guns because like that, those are some deeper issues. And listen, everybody, like we've talked about, especially if you're dating a little older, everybody's scratch and dent and everybody comes with some stuff. And a lot of times when somebody has that kind of anger, it is the result of pain and trauma in their life. And you can have all the compassion in the world for that. But at the same time, if that person isn't willing to go and get help for it, then you, not only are you under no obligation to stay, you absolutely should not stay.
Right. I totally agree with you.
Another thing is there's another kind of abuse that I don't think people talk about enough, which is just like somebody who undermines you. You know what I mean? Like, they know that it's a really important day. You've got this big thing going on and you're really counting on them to do XYZ for you or to back you up or to be there. And they consistently just aren't. Or they're doing something to stress you out. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's just consistently not supportive of things that they know are really important to you.
Right. And that they should show up for and then they don't.
Right. And another version of that I see is somebody who is consistently causing problems in your relationships.
Right.
You know, if like they hate all your friends or like they've got a real problem with your family that they're not going to let go. And suddenly they start isolating you from other people. That can be kind of insidious. And a lot of times it can come in the form of them, you know, they've got all these real legit reasons why they don't like this person or whatever. But when you see this pattern of behavior, it's like, well, who in my life do you not have a problem with?
Right.
Actually?
Who do I get to keep though?
And like, don't you respect me enough that these are my friends? that I have chosen. These are the people that I have chosen to surround myself with. And I don't want to be with somebody who has so little respect for me that they can't even respect the choices that I've made in the people that I surround myself with.
Right.
Although the flip side of that is if you've got a bunch of garbage people in your life that are causing chaos.
You might need betterhelp.com/workationing.
Right. And you've also, there is the other side of that, which is like somebody might not want to be with you if you've got a bunch of relationships that are like causing a lot of drama with people who are toxic or chaotic or whatever.
No, if you've got a bunch of friends who are constantly calling you in chaos.
Yeah.
With some like new bullshit.
Right.
All the time. And now that's eating into your headspace. Like maybe phase those people out of your life a little bit.
Right. So, I mean, there is a case where that could be on you. But for the most part, if somebody's causing issues in your relationships and isolating you from your friend group or from your family or whatever, that's not a good situation.
No, and again, get out sooner rather than later. Controlling behavior is just like something I can't tolerate at all. I don't react well to that.
No, ultimatums and, someone trying to tell you who you can see and how you can spend your time. Life's too short for all that. And also, it's usually a prelude to something worse.
Right. It's so tough because, again, like it can be scary to walk away, and it can be time consuming, and it can be expensive.
Well, and it can be really hard too. I think you and I have both been in a situation to a various degree where sometimes you can really see where that trauma and that pain came in somebody and why they're acting the way that they're acting, and you can really understand them and you can really love them. But if they aren't willing to get help for it, there's nothing that you can do.
Right.
And that can be really hard to walk away from when you're like, ugh, you're being such an asshat right now, but I know why. And it sucks that XYZ happened to you in your life, and now this is who you are. And I empathize for you and your loneliness, but like you've got to do something about this.
Right. Because at a certain age, like I don't want to say that all of the people in their mid to late 27s, mid to late 37s, and mid to late 47s who are single are definitely single for a reason, and that's because they're irreparably broken. But that is the case for some of them.
A couple of them. There's some out there, and you might come upon them in your travels, and it can be so tempting to try to save that person and to try to be the person that can help them. But if they're not going to help themselves, there's literally nothing that you can do.
Right. So you need to help yourself on out of that relationship so you can, move on to somebody who doesn't treat you like shit.
Totally.
So I think that is when to definitely run away screaming. And if you are in an abusive relationship, you definitely need to get help. And there are hotlines in every single country.
There are. And we're going to put it down in the episode description. There's a link to a bunch of different domestic violence hotlines in a bunch of different cities. If somebody ever lays a hand on you, it doesn't matter the excuse. It doesn't matter how mad they were. It doesn't matter how sorry they were after. If someone ever lays a hand on you, you see this so much that people who don't get and this is men and women, but like people who don't get out of abusive situations, the abuse only continues and escalates.
No, and in the meantime, it grinds down on your self-worth.
Right.
And so it becomes more difficult for you to leave the longer the abuse goes on.
Right. And you want to get help with leaving because the leaving part can be dangerous if you're in a situation where someone's abusive.
Right.
And a lot of people, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're in more danger. Err on the side of caution. Get some help.
Well, and the number one source of women murders, right?
Right.
The number one killer of women.
No, the person, if you're a woman, well, actually, I think if you're a man too, but especially if you're a woman, the person most likely to kill you is your partner. I think that might be the case for men too, actually. But in general, isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Isn't that just a nice thought? But I mean, it's true, and you see it all the time that like somebody gets killed, usually some lady, and the police were called on that dude a million times, and all her friends and family knew, and the police knew,
Yeah, you don't want to be that
no,
case.
so get out, find some help, tell some people, get out of there, because that's the one situation you shouldn't be putting up with. Any form of abuse at all. All those different kinds of abuse that we talked about are unacceptable, and you should not accept them.
Well, and we talked about a lot of like when to walk away and when to, this is definitely, like I said, the when to run away screaming part, but maybe you've got some trust issues, you can probably work through them, or maybe you can. Sexually incompatible. All right, well, maybe you guys just need to negotiate a better settlement. Like I don't think that any of these things individually necessarily have to be deal breakers, but they treat you like shit, and especially they're abusive, you gotta run, girl, run.
Yeah, that's when you've got to get out no matter what.
So I think that wraps this episode, right?
Yeah. So actually in our next episode, this has been really fun. This little 3-episode arc that we've done as well. It's been a little painful.
Yeah, I was going to say fun. Kelly, was that good for you? It wasn't good. We both cried. There were some laughs.
What's been cool about it is all of the feedback that we've been getting.
We have gotten so much feedback over on Facebook in particular. We've got a Facebook group.
We do. Facebook.com/groups/workationing.
That's Facebook.com/groups/workationing. And join us over there. We just started the group and there's like 500 people in there already.
Yeah, it's already
crazy.
A swinging ass party.
Yeah, I'm like, hey guys, where are y'all coming from? We ask you that when you join the group. Tell us. We want to know how you found us.
Yeah, we geek out over that. It's super cool. And we've gotten so much feedback about these episodes from people who are going through similar things or people who had a different perspective to offer. And actually, we've gotten so much feedback that we're going to do one quick little extra episode after this one where we're going to actually read some of the responses that we got from people.
We got some really interesting responses that I think are absolutely worth reading and bringing to the people, because they're different perspectives. And we heard from a couple of dudes who thought that Kelly's making a face. That was a good face. I wish we were on video.
Yeah.
We're going to be on Facebook Live.
Right.
So there's that. You can catch that over at facebook.com/groups/workationing. But some of the feedback that we got from dudes they thought that we could have brought a little bit more of the male perspective.
And I hear that. I totally hear that. Where the face comes in is that it's a little tedious sometimes as a woman to constantly and having two women on a podcast to constantly be justifying why it is that we're talking about the female perspective. First of all, do you want me to tell men what their perspective is?
I don't like it when men tell me what my perspective is. I'll tell you that much.
No, I don't appreciate it when other people
from.
try to tell me what my experience is, and so I try not to do that for other people. I also happen to think that a female perspective is enough to hold space and to have its own platform. Only, what is it? Something like 20% of podcasts or less have only female hosts. Mm-hmm. So I think that the male perspective on kind of all issues is well represented, and men can talk about their perspective without having to justify why they didn't ask ladies how they feel also.
Right.
And however, we did get some really great feedback from men, and I'm glad that we did, and that had a different perspective on various issues that we talked about.
Yeah, monogamy in particular. We've got a hot polyamory letter coming at you.
Yeah, and we do want to include those. So, we did hear people on that, and we want to talk about that in the next episode, because there is another whole side to this coin.
We got a lot of different perspectives. We got some confirmation as well. We got some people thinking that maybe we could have done a better job in some areas.
Well, and to be clear, there's a lot more than just the male and the female perspective on this. You know what I mean? Because even that assumes that there's two genders and that there's nothing in between.
Right.
That also assumes that, we didn't really talk about the gay experience.
No.
Or the experience of asexual people,
or
the experience of handicapped people.
Right.
Or, we didn't talk about all kinds of stuff because that's not my lane. Once again, I don't really feel comfortable speaking to an experience that I'm not having. It's just interesting to me that it's okay for me to not have those perspectives, but if I don't have the male perspective, then suddenly we have a problem.
Well, some of that might have been my lane in, let's say, college.
I did go to an all-girls high school. Like, I've drifted into that lane.
You swerved a bit?
I've swerved from time to time,
Swerved right into the lady pond?
It happens.
Yeah.
These things happen. But no, so just in particular. But yeah, no, we're excited. So we haven't recorded that yet. We're probably not going to do that for a couple days. So if you have feedback that you would like to offer and throw into the ring. We've gotten tons, so we can't guarantee that we're going to get to everyone because we absolutely aren't going to get to everyone. But if you have a perspective that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear it. And there's a chance that we might read it on the podcast.
Yes, and if you feel comfortable sharing your perspective with the Facebook group, just go ahead and post that.
Yeah, it gets tons of interaction. People love talking about this, actually. So
yeah, Relationshit. Who knew? Everyone has thoughts and opinions on it,
right?
Well, who wouldn't, right?
Well, it's so fun.
God, can you imagine? Like sometimes I think that the people who got married right out of high school to their high school sweetheart are just like, have they ever really lived? But then at the same time, I'm like, maybe they know a lot of things that I don't.
Yeah,
maybe that was a good move. Upon further reflection, I'm just like, I'm not so sure that was wrong.
Right? Like maybe you should just marry someone and figure out how to love them for a lifetime through thick and thin instead of getting to the point where you have a list of needs and wants that's a mile long that no one could ever fulfill. I don't know, man.
Could go either way.
Could go either way.
It is
hell.
It's true because God, it's tough to find a partner when you're older and you know what good looks like, or at least you know what you want your life to look like, and then everyone else needs to check those boxes.
Yeah, no, I might have wished I had gone a different route. It's hard to tell. Game's not over yet, but
well, one thing that you touched on when we were prepping for this episode was that the game's not over, so you don't know if you should have already settled.
Right, like you don't know where you are in the story arc of your love life. Like it could have been canceled already, and you don't know that it's not coming back for another season.
Yeah, that's a sad thought, or it could be right around the corner.
Right, or you could be a real Harrison Ford about to get discovered in your 40s or whatever.
Right, and then he still got Callista Flockhart, who was way younger than him.
Right, and I'm sure he's still slaying that puss.
Oh my God! Oh, I don't want to think about that.
I'm sure he is.
That was a lot. Kelly, sometimes you hit me with some stuff and I'm just like, oh, that was a lot.
It was fine.
You leave Ally McBeal out of this.
I wasn't talking about hers in particular.
All right, on that note, did we wrap it?
I think we did it.
Okay. Please send us your feedback. We want to hear it, and we'd love to read it on the podcast. If you want to keep it private, but you want to share your thoughts with us anyway, totally down for that. You will get a response.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll keep you anonymous on the air if we do use your stuff.
Or we won't read it at all.
Right, or we won't read it at all if you don't want us to.
Choose your own adventure. We don't care. Just let us know that we're not the only ones out here struggling in these relationship streets.
Oh, show. All right, guys, we will catch you next time. This has been another episode of the Workationing Podcast. If you like what you've heard here, please consider donating at patreon.com/workationing. That's patreon.com. All proceeds will go towards funding our bucket list items.
To keep up with us in real time, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at Workationing. Or on our website at, you guessed it, workationing.com. That's workationing.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode.
Girl, I gotta get these toenails handled. I can tap this one on the ground. You hear that? Too long.
Why so much of this podcast about feet all of a sudden?
I heard how much you like them.
Ew. So gross.